Just really haven't been feeling it lately. I need some good inspiration to make these Swede videos.
Why don't we go to IKEA?
Nah, they don't really like concealed carry. They're kind of anti-gun.
Well, we could test drive a Volvo.
Too expensive, and I really don't want to deal with a schwarmy salesman.
How about we listen to the Swedish version cut of Line of the North?
A little bit closer, but Joachim's only half Swedish.
Well, I am 75% Swedish.
It's a good idea. Here, throw on this blonde wig and maybe we can talk.
Fine.
Welcome to the Mauser Mike channel. Growing up in the United States, the name Husqvarna mainly conjures up chainsaws and other small engine equipment. So when I started getting into milsurps and came across Swedish Mausers, I wanted a Husqvarna rifle because I figured it was similar to when IBM, Rockola jukeboxes, or various subsidiaries of General Motors made M1 carbines here. Just a little reading led me to discover that Husqvarna was a rifle manufacturer first with a 330-year history, and their logo, still in use today, is a rifle sight. They only started branching out when military contracts started to dry up in the late 19th century. In my last video, I talked about the history and development of the carbine M1894 and Gevär M1896 rifles. In this video, I will talk about the third major iteration of the Swedish Mauser, the Gevär M38, as well as Husqvarna and my M38 rifle. In 1938, 30,000 M1896 rifles were sent to Carl Gustaf's factory to be rebarreled with a 24.5-inch barrel, shorter than the 29.1-inch they had previously, while longer than the 17.7-inch barrel of the carbine. This, along with the new Spitzer bullet ammo in 1941, called for a new sight. While some were equipped initially, the Swedes found that replacing the stock disc with holdover, see my M1896 video for more details on the disc, or later just adding a shooting chart to the stock was much more economical. This was also done to unshorten M96s and M94 carbines due to the new ammo. These conversions would be designed the Gevär M96-38. The Second World War began on the continent in 1939, and invasions of Norway by Germany and Finland by the Soviet Union would force Sweden to ramp up its military in case it was needed. Although Sweden wanted to help out Finland, the Soviet Union made it very clear that Sweden would be invaded next if they sent soldiers Finland's way. Still, many Swedish arms and volunteers made it to the Finns, disproving the whole Swedish rifle was not battle-tested narrative, as nearly 10% of the rifles and machine guns used by the Finns during the Winter and Continuation Wars were of Swedish origin. While Sweden would purchase machine guns and Mausers from Germany in 1939, they knew they needed more rifles. An order was placed at the now private company, Husqvarna, for more patterned M38 rifles. In 1620, King Gustavus Adolphus, immortalized in Sabaton's Line of the North, established 6 state armories, including Jan Koping's Gevärsfactory. A separate milling works factory to bore out and grind musket barrels was built in the nearby town of Husqvarna in 1689. Thanks to the addition of this new factory, Jan Koping's production increased nearly tenfold, just in time for the Great Northern War. All production was moved to Husqvarna in 1757, and the Crown transferred the factory to private ownership of Friedrich. I'm just going to type his name across the screen. I'm not going to even attempt to pronounce that. The factory became Husqvarna Waffenfabriks Aktiebolag. Husqvarna would continue to produce firearms for the Crown, but government contracts would start to run out after the Danish-Prussian and Franco-Prussian Wars. They would begin to branch out in the latter part of the 19th century and produce sewing machines, wood stoves, mincing machines, typewriters, bicycles, motorcycles, gas stoves, and civilian firearms. In the 20th century, Husqvarna would produce manual lawnmowers, small gas engines, and appliances. They'd be the first to produce a motorized lawnmower in 1947, and their first chainsaw in 1959. All this while, they continued to produce firearms for civilian use as well as government contracts, including production of the M38s. They would later produce the AK-4 assault rifle, which is basically a G3 copy. Husqvarna would introduce its final civilian rifle series in 1967 and sell its government contracts to FFV, which was the current incarnation of Carl Gustaf's. They would rename to simply Husqvarna in the 1970s and become mainly known for chainsaws and mowers, among other things, from there on out. As stated earlier, Husqvarna would receive the contract to produce the 60,000 M38 pattern rifles, which were built between 1941 and 1944, and they would be designated the Gevär M38. These would be almost identical to the converted rifles, except for a turned-down bolt and a new rear sight which is calibrated to 600 meters. If there's a T on the sight, it is calibrated for the 1941 Spitzer round. The receiver is marked Husqvarna Waffenfabriks Belag and the year it was produced. My rifle was produced in 1942. It made its way back to the arsenal at one point, as a couple of the parts are electro-penciled matched, and the barrel isn't perfect according to the stock disc. It had the chart at one point, but you can tell it's been removed at some point in its lifetime. This is an enjoyable rifle to shoot, and if I had to march with it for miles, I would take it over the M1896. But when it comes to just shooting, I would take my M1896 over my Husqvarna, as the M38 shoots high for me, and I have to figure out the hold. Perhaps this is where losing the chart at some point in its existence can hurt. The action is very smooth like the M1896, making the Swedes the smoothest Mausers I've shot, if not of all bolt-action milsurps. Please be aware of where your elected officials and the groups that claim to represent you stand on the Constitution. Please join the GOA, the premier no-compromise 2A organization, and get $5 off your membership with the link in my description. And no, I don't get a kickback. This isn't the NRA. If you like my content, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Engagement really helps with YouTube's algorithms. Also, please check out my Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Parler, and who I support on Patreon. Thank you for watching, and as always, have a great day.